It's April the 14th, 2016. I'm Dana Durnford, your host, NuclearProctologist.org. And you can find these videos and Fukushima presentations throughout the internet. Today we're going to be talking about how we have to stop the reactors in Japan. There is nothing more important. And unfortunately, to do that, we might have to sacrifice 6, 7, 8, 9 million people. You heard me. And so we got to really talk about this. We got to really look at the reality of this. We got to, reconsider everything you've been told by your medias and by your academics and by your institutions, because they're public relation firms and they have no intentions of telling you the truth. They have no intentions, because the nuclear industry is really something we've never experienced before, where it controls so many aspects of our life. There's 1 million corporations dependent upon nuclear. 1 million corporations dependent upon nuclear. You got to think about that. And then you got the military, and you got the security apparatuses. Then you got the terrorist apparatuses. They're completely dependent upon something that has never happened. No terrorist has ever taken a dirty bomb and detonated it and contaminated a city, because that would burn nuclear to the ground if they done that. But they suck billions out of each country every year, multi-billions. So you're not getting the schools, you're not getting the hospitals, you're not getting the infrastructure, you're not getting the high-speed internet, you're not getting anything good out of it, because it all goes into this stupid, idiotic, moronic security apparatus. And then the nuclear industry, it cannot survive without robbing your country. It has to rob other countries. It has to decimate your mountains. So for a gram of uranium, which is what they use, they don't use cesium and iodine and plutonium per se. They got to create it all from uranium originally. So you create it from uranium. So everything is dirty. Everything is maniacal. Everything is harmful. Everything is supposed to be locked up, afraid the terrorists get it. And I cover those headlines all the time. The terrorists are going to get a dirty bomb. We got to spend another $1 billion here, $1 billion there. Now, yesterday we done math on this little part of our daily conversation from here on out. Now, I made a mistake yesterday. It was pretty obvious. And good morning, everybody. We'll just come in and say good morning to everybody right quick as we kick off our day. It takes me 5 minutes to get warmed up. And like normal, I'm not plugged in. I'm not switched over to the other camera. Hang on. We'll plug that in, knock myself offline, get back online. Oh, I stayed online that time. Haha. It takes a few minutes to get up and warming. We got the #1 show on the planet, and that we provide you with the documentation as we're talking. What more could you possibly want? We help flush it out and break it down and make it palatable and digestible for even the common person who is considered illiterate. These are the people we want to reach. These are the people that need to be informed. These are the people that are most at risk. These are the people that will never be informed. And there's 5 billion people on the planet not connected to the internet. They have no concept, no idea that they have to protect themselves and that they might be in harm's way. And that the nuclear industry, with 1,000 corporations on its knees, begging for more money from everybody, and then the global media never having another narrative, just bananas and potato chips and walking in the sunshine and dental x-rays, which is completely different than man-made ionizing radiation than a dirty bomb, see? We can't make a dirty bomb out of potato chips. You can't make a dirty bomb out of bananas. No matter how many bananas you got. You can't do it. That's what we're going to cover today. Good morning. We'll say hi to everybody. Frank, Billy. Thanks, Billy. I got that last night. You're awesome, buddy. Frank, Pam, Amthurst, and Billy. Anybody don't know Billy? The cap you see me wearing all the time when I talk about, I bring up this little doohickey over there. That cap is Billy's mom, I think, knitted that originally. Oh, I smurfed that up. Sorry, folks. But anyway, that's what I was saying hi to that time. LA checks and balances. Elaine was there. I seen Amthurst. Ping. Did I skip by anybody? Frank. And good morning, everyone. Hi, Kate. And Kate is there, and Pam. Just cussing. Good morning, everyone. Albert, John. And John, we were talking about cigarettes yesterday, and poor John had said, Dana, don't talk about cigarettes or don't smoke because he wanted a cigarette. Well, buy natural tobacco, John. And then if you can't take it anymore, have one of those things. And you'll kick your habit. Just don't buy the ones with the 7,000 chemicals in it. Right? That's why your media, that's why I despise media so much. Hi, Gabriel. And everybody else, Nip Killer. Let's get busy. Anybody? I didn't say hi to him. My apologies. And I don't wear glasses very often, so I can't really see Jack. And thanks, Janice Brooks, Miss Milky the Clown 1 on YouTube, for sending me all those videos you sent me. Ooh, I was up all night watching those. Good morning, Jan. Speaking of Jan. Takes 12-second delay, so she put her comment there before she heard my name on her, so you can be sure. Strontium Milks. Hi, everybody. And Jan sent me some really interesting videos. I'm going to cover some of that, actually, today. Just because I'm a dickhead. Okay. I lost track of what I'm supposed to do over here. Hang on a second. Oh, yeah. So, let's talk about how you couldn't see anything that time because Dana had the screen all taken up. Oops. So, a petabecquerel, there's 15 million petabecquerels of potassium-40 in the ocean. And if you look in your bottom right-hand side, now this is what they say. Look at the bottom paragraph. Though serious, they're talking about the man-made stuff, these totals pale compared to the abundance of radioactive substances naturally present in seawater such as uranium-238 and potassium-40. Okay. You got that? It turns out you need 70 pounds of fuel to get the same amount of atoms as natural stuff in the ocean of potassium. So, like, to make a gram of uranium for a chain reaction, here's what you got to do. You got to get 400 train car loads. Before I go into the numbers, you got to get 400 train car loads of iron ore. Yeah. So you got to get all these permits and get this land, and then you got to find a mountain. Navajo Nation has 15,000 of them abandoned. And what you do is you take out 400 train car loads out of a mountain. Okay, that on its own, if I gave you the task and say, here you go, I want you to go hire the people, get the equipment, I want you to go get 400 train car loads. Not every day, but just today. Or tomorrow or the next day when you're ready. It's a big job, isn't it? Yeah? Now you got to do that for every gram. But not only that, when you got to transport those 400 train car loads somewhere else. Now you got to treat it with 400 train car loads of chemicals to separate it, and then you got to flush that with inconceivable amount of water. Now that's toxic sludge too. Okay, now you got a gram. Now you got to get 5 million pounds of it for any of the reactors in Japan. So those numbers, this is really straightforward. I'll bring up the calculator again to show you where I made a mistake yesterday. My apologies. Even though yesterday still is disgusting when you think about it. But what I'm going to show you today is it's just... So the numbers you're looking at are based upon the charts down below, which is what Woods Hole uses all the time. And mainstream media and all the nuclear apologists will talk about the exact same numbers. So one applies to all the rest of them, yeah? So they're all telling you the same lie, and I'm going to show you why it's so scary that they have indoctrinated the population with this lie. Okay, so 15 million petabecquerels of potassium-40 in the ocean, and a petabecquerel is 27,027 curies. And a curie weighs a gram. Now, man-made stuff, there's 88 curies in a gram. But in nature, potassium-40 is 0.00071. So 71 10 millionths of a curie per gram. That works out to 262,700 isotopes. Okay. And cesium is made from uranium during a chain reaction, right? So this is different. Man-made stuff is different. Okay. So a curie of potassium, atomic atoms, 262,700 atomic atoms, or 26,700 becquerels decays per second. But a curie of cesium is 3,256,000,000 decays a second. Okay, so a curie of cesium has 12,394,366 times more becquerels than a curie of potassium. Got a big O there, big deal. So you need 12 million grams plus, right? Almost, 12.3 million grams, 12.4 million grams, or 26,000 pounds of natural potassium to produce the same amount of atoms you would get from a gram, of man-made uranium or man-made cesium. And remember, potassium can't hurt you. It's natural, it's indigenous, and everybody's acclimated to it through genetic superior selection. So the math on that would look like this. Man, I do too much. So what you wanted was, say, 12 million. And this is how you worked out whether the numbers were proper or not. 394 and then 388. Yeah? We'll expand this in a second. Now that's how many grams of potassium you would need. I forget how to do the math already. So 12 million grams times, because each gram of potassium, right, each gram of potassium is 262,700, and that would reach 3.25 trillion, which is slightly lower than the number you would get. So 3.25 trillion, right, there's hundreds of millions. There's hundreds of billions, and 3 is a trillion. Okay. So we'll leave that number to the right-hand side. Now, if you had a gram of cesium, it's 88 curies, and that's times 37 billion, right? So there's 37 billion atoms in a curie, and there's 88 curies, and there's 88 curies per gram of man-made stuff versus 262 atoms total, because it's 1/10 millionth or 71 10 millionth of a curie for potassium, and it's 88 full curies. So the number works out to be what? 256, 3.2 trillion and 3.2 trillion. Okay, well there you go. See. So the numbers I'm showing you, that a gram of man-made is 12 million times worse than a gram of nature. It contains more atoms because you use 400 train car loads to get a gram. See, a gram from man-made is 1,000,000 watts. It's 1,000,000 watts. Think about it. 1,000,000 watts. So you can run, I can't remember. It's 1,000 watt hair dryers if you're a lady. And if you're a man, it's 333 3,000 watt heaters with something the size of the tip of your pinky. That's a neat trick, isn't it? But then you got all the train car loads of solvents and toxins and dioxins to separate it to get that gram from 400 train cars. And then you have to store all that stuff somewhere. You have to dig up mountain after mountain after mountain because you're only getting a gram for 400 train car loads of iron ore. Right, and then you have to have security to protect. You're going to use it for 18 months to 2 years, and then you need security for 1 billion years to protect us. So terrorists don't get it, spread it all over the planet. Okay, so you only need 70 pounds total released from a reactor to be the equivalent, I opened it up twice, to be the equivalent, and let's come over and I'll show you what I mean. Excuse me. So Fukushima, I'll give you the other camera. There. Okay. Let's go this way, big picture. So Fukushima had detonations and meltdowns. Tsunami ran through the country, ran through power plants all along the country. And then you had meltdowns, right? And detonations, meltdowns. Then you had Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3. And I got to bring Unit 4 up closer, and Unit 4. And that's confirmed. But if you go looking at what happened, now they couldn't get power in there, right? And so on the 18th, they're still a long way from power. Okay. Now I'm going to have to fix the audio on the fly, but this was CBC News on March the 13th, 2011, talking about the spent fuel pools if they don't get water. And let's play that clip.
Come on!
A possible tsunami was the immediate threat here in BC. Now there is the risk of radioactive fallout. 2 nuclear power plants in Japan are damaged. And as Bell Piri reports, that's cause for alarm here.
Japan has declared a state of emergency at 2 nuclear power plants. 5 reactors have been shut down because of cooling problems due to power outages after the earthquake. Radioactive vapor has been released from at least one of them to protect the reactor. The question is, where will the vapor go?
We tend to see weather systems coming up and over via sort of the Aleutian Panhandle or down through Hawaii and up and in.
In the long term, it'll come to us. The danger depends on what happens in Japan. If the cooling systems aren't repaired within 24 hours, a core meltdown is a risk.
Okay, hang on. Look at the billing they're showing you. See that? Now, if they don't cool down in 24 hours, it's the risk. But look at what the actual building looks like. See, it looks like that. Get it? Looks like that. So they couldn't have got power in there. And the one that looks like that is now confirmed is all gone. But it wasn't just that. There was, it wasn't just that. There's 15 reactors. And the reason being, if you look at the damage from the tsunami throughout that country, quick look at it, and the heartbreak throughout that country. There's 30 million one-ton bags throughout the country, and there's no infrastructure left in the country, and that the people that died along the coastline of the country from that tsunami debris that I was showing you coming through their country, all the red numbers and the yellow are missing, but the red numbers are the people that died, and they died from that creature coming through 400 kilometers of the country. But the fuel plants, the hideous monster known as a nuclear power plant, which is the epitome of what it really does. It needs a cold power plant to supply it. It needs an off-site power, and a lot of it to run it. It needs a fucking coal plant, its own coal plant. Get rid of the nuclear, the coal plant will probably do the job. It's the biggest deception on the planet. But the reality of it was, where all those people died, there was many power plants. And Fukushima governor said we need to dismantle all 10 reactors. What was he talking about, I wonder? He was talking about that and that, see? Right? That's what he was talking about. They were spraying the salt water on it. And they created these buckyballs. They're able to ingest the radioactive elements, the particles, the atoms. And the studies on that, this is what it looks like, but this was a depiction somebody sent me, had jimmied up and sent to me. So I forgot to use it, but there it is. Now I'll use it forever. And now the power plants
will not reach the level of power to those could go if the safety systems fail. If they lose power to those to that reactor or to any other reactors past a few hours from now, you might reach a...
he's going to say 3 mile on. He's an apologist. But what he does talk about is that if you don't get power, how are you going to hook up power? Okay, I'm going to give you everything you want, everybody you want, anybody you want. I'm going to give you all the equipment, all the money, all the monetary, all the authority, you could even conceive. You can't conceive it. Okay, now once you go in, restore power to that and that, you're going to look at me and tell me, what? You're not going to have a clue why I offered you everything. But the fact was, that, like I showed you along the coastline where all those people died, you couldn't get power in any of those nuclear power plants. And we got to stop them all. But right now we can confirm the Diachi. And that we talked to that governor, we'll confirm another 6 more for sure, see? And if we don't stop those reactors, if we don't try, like Harvard and Yale and Berkeley, MIT, Stanford, Oxford, and all the major shakers and movers on the planet all went to Chernobyl year after year after year after year after year, boom, boom, year after year. Oh, honey, we're going to Chernobyl. It's pretty scary. None of them went to Fukushima. Obama didn't go to Fukushima. Putin didn't go to Fukushima. You know what I'm saying? Nobody went to Fukushima. Except for the homeless, the destitute, and the impoverished, and the victims of society. They went there. This radioactive material, and we've covered, you can't get the power in there. That was on the 18th. You heard people talking 24 hours, 24 hours. 2 major media is putting that one out. And think about how that atom works. When these plants blew up, when they detonated, they spread that stuff everywhere. It continues to do that till the end of time. Those chunks were spread enormous distances. Look at this and tell me. Now this is Unit 4. I'm just going to touch up on Seth Dorn one more time. He's going to say he's here in Unit 4.
Work taking place here in Reactor.
Hang on, I got to put my audio back up. We'll replay that in a second, one more time. I can't
At the end
find
of our
it.
tour, we were checked for radiation exposure. In 4 hours, I received the equivalent of less than a chest X-ray.
Yeah, watch what I'm doing with that, because the next one will get stupid loud. So he had to check for. He was in Unit 4, right? Let's play that first part one more time.
Of the decommissioning work taking place here in Reactor 4.
Yeah, and so the name of the video up on YouTube, if you just put in Fukushima on YouTube and don't just click, right? And that'll show up like 3 or 4 videos down. They've been pumping that out there now for 2 years. Now he's down in Fukushima Prefecture at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant, yeah? And he says, and we'll move on here in a second, but he says, but this is so important. This is a man saying he's inside of that building, and that it looks like that. Do you get that? Do you understand the significance of that? The media faked it. He is under no circumstances inside of that. And I can assure you, he's not in that. Let's look at it big. Do you think he's in there? Do you think Seth Dorn, hang on. That was a study on beagle dogs and beagle puppies, how they all died in 3 to 5 years. Do you think Seth Dorn, let's move him along a little bit. Look at him. He says he's inside of Unit 4. Look at the walls, look at the lights up there, look at everybody standing around with their hands in their pocket laughing. I'm getting paid to do this? Wow. None of them speaks English, right? So Seth, he's not in Fukushima. He's not even, that's green screen. That's green screen. That's all that is. Just like my desk, just like everything you see around me, just like how I'm doing all of those pictures, how I can bring in such super high quality. It's all green screen. The walls behind me, the floor, that's all green screen. But look how stunning it is. Look what I can do with it, how I can zoom around, I can zoom in on any, I can go to cut, you know, I can cut right around like I got all kinds of cameras, yeah? I can take control of the camera in real time, but it's all digital. It's just green screen. Looks pretty good, like I can pan it. So it looks like someone's panning the camera or whatever. Gotta bring that back over here because I'll be needing that in a minute. But that's what Seth is doing.
Of the decommissioning work taking place here in Reactor 4.
Taking place here, and then he says,
At the end of our tour, we were checked for radiation exposure. In 4 hours,
do they look like Americans checking them for radiation exposure? That's Japanese people, see?
I received the equivalent.
So he worked with TEPCO and the Japanese government and CBS and PBS to deceive you, manipulate you. That's why you got to go down and stop those reactors. They got no intentions of sending their children, their academics. None of them are going to go in there. None of them will go in there. No matter how many homeless they kill down there to make it a little safer, if that's even conceivable. They can't go near the tanks because the tanks are putting out X-rays and neutrons, and they're going to dump that in the ocean today. By the way, hang on a second. Where the hell did I put that to? It should be right there. Kevin was out on the beach. Yeah, Kevin Blanche is out on... I'm having a cigarette in the background. I'll turn my audio down. My cigarettes don't have 7,000 chemicals. I'm just going to play a minute of Kevin's video. And I'm going to adjust the audio right away for us. But Kevin went down to the beach in California, and there's nothing left there. And I'm going to show it to you. You got to see it to believe it. It's just, wow.
Article, I want to get you guys a look at the tide pools. How empty they are. These tide pools are so scorched, so empty. These should be live with sea anemones. These should be live. They've been empty for the last 3 years. So they should be alive all over with starfish, with sea anemones, with barnacles. You can see, this is the way all California looks. They're bleached. There ain't nothing. I mean, this should be just live with vegetation. You can see that a little bit of brown, nothingness. Okay, it's so sad. It's all right. That's what I've been told that before.
So all you've seen is a couple of algae. There's
All
should be 600 algae right there.
The tide pools.
You don't see any limpets. You're not seeing
Okay.
any mollusks, any snails, any periwinkles.
Okay, get those waves in there good.
And see, I'm
Got
gonna
it?
stop this here. One second.
Okay.
See all those waves? That's oxygen. You see all those holes in the rocks? And that limestone and everything? That's from sea urchins, right? And they got like 1,000 spines on them, a calcium. But they gouge away and they make these little nooks. And they're all empty, not even baby ones in the corners. And they should be completely plugged. But all that oxygen, that's all that wave breaking on the coastline. That's what made the coastline fantastic, was all this life at low tide. You couldn't count it before the tide came back up. Let's watch another moment of it. Get a bull kelp tail. Kevin's going to grab it. Stunning footage too, really good quality. I like what Kevin does with his head. He holds it over his head. Just keeps it there. There's a man who doesn't stop. There's a man who walked across states for nuclear. There's a man who went to battle against everything out there over and over and over and over and over. Over repeatedly. Never backed down from anything out there a single time. Never gave an inch. Won't give an inch. Shouldn't give an inch. Couldn't give an inch if he wanted to. And he understands, right? He gets it. He knows why that bear is starved, and he's showing it to you right now, why that bear is starved to death, why the scientists chased it for 700 miles over a week and a half or something. That bear had the longest dive and the deepest dive just before it died. It starved to death. But it had the longest swim, too, for a polar bear. And it only seen food a couple of times. A couple of seals never got it. It starved to death because there was nothing there to catch or eat or salvage or scrap. There was nothing to forage. And I covered that before, just before I got arrested, right? A couple of days before, the day before I got arrested, or even the day I got arrested, if I remember correctly. How certain scientists that I'm not allowed to mention their names, the two biggest names in nuclear, I'm not allowed to mention their names. Think about that one. And how the judge says they can't use bananas, potato chips, and walking in sunshine as a motive for why I was upset. Because the science was settled. And that is like nuclear dirty bombs. So even your justice system is completely corrupted. Utterly 100% mentally retarded and insane. How they don't even understand the significance. The judge done all of that, and then the judge finally looked at the prosecutor and asked the prosecutor what I was charged with. Judge don't even know what I was there for, but banned Mother Nature. Said I couldn't use Mother Nature to explain nuclear. How it's not like nuclear. Which is what got me upset. And I'm not withdrawing my comments, by the way, for anybody. Okay. Now I imported that Harvard video because we didn't play that. This is Harvard coming up. It's a very tiny, short video, 26 seconds long. And it was from March the 16th, 5 days after the Fukushima event, 2011. Here's what Harvard had to say.
Firstly, Units 1 through 3 are suffering core damage, accidents, and perhaps spent fuel pool accidents as well. The spent fuel pool.
Now I put that picture in the side there. Let's try that again. Turn his volume up a little bit. I screwed up. Okay.
Firstly, Units 1 through 3 are suffering core damage, accidents, and perhaps spent fuel pool accidents as well. The spent fuel pool is located at the top of the reactor building, which in each case is damaged. Units 1 and 3, in fact, destroyed at that location.
Yeah, destroyed. Now I put those pictures there. I chopped that out. That was Harvard. The building, they're destroyed. In fact, destroyed. And as you can see for yourself. But they're in a chain reaction. We have to stop that. Nothing else matters. Chernobyl only lasted 10 days in a chain reaction, but it was equal to 400 Hiroshima bombs. But Chernobyl was a candlestick. Just a candlestick compared to Fukushima. And remember, it only takes 70 pounds of man-made material to produce the same amount of atoms as nature in the ocean. Here's MIT one more time, since we're here.
I'd like to welcome our own students from nuclear science and engineering and other members of the community here at MIT, and also visitors, I think, from elsewhere.
And shortly after 3:30, there was a hydrogen explosion in the building of Reactor 1. So when of that explosion, not long after, the evacuation zone was extended to 20 kilometers radius. On Monday at 11 a.m., so this is now on the third day, there was a hydrogen explosion of building of Reactor 3.
Now, this was March the 15th, 2011. This is 4 days after the accident. Now, I put all the pictures in to articulate what he was talking about. Here we go.
In the meantime, Reactor 2 fuel rods, what is reported to have been fully uncovered.
So that meant they couldn't, like I showed you earlier, the tsunami debris and destruction throughout the 400 kilometers of that coastline. Fukushima wasn't able to withstand that. It didn't just magically withstand a wood chipper, okay? So let's keep going. He's going to go based upon what he's told, but it's a telling what he was told.
And they quite soon began to inject seawater, borated seawater.
It wasn't borated seawater. There was no such thing as borated seawater. He knows that in his heart. But anyway, he has family down there, so let him keep going.
At 6:14 a.m. on Tuesday, that's today, of course, but since they're 13 hours ahead of us, that was quite a while ago now, there was a third explosion. This was in Reactor 2. This was inside, as far as we can tell.
So they had an explosion in Reactor 2, Reactor 1 and Reactor 3.
Inside or near the containment. And another worry that arose was on that same day was that the Reactor 4 building, Reactor 4 is adjacent to Reactor.
Now you see what looks like two people up there in that corner on the roof. If that is not photoshopped there and it's actually real people, he's one of the missing. There's not two people there. We zoomed in the high quality. There's only possibly one person there. If it's not photoshopped, it's probably photoshopped in because the rods are everywhere. And a pound of this will kill everybody in 1,500 people in 20 minutes. It'll kill everybody in that front row in 1 minute of a theater. It'll kill you just walking past it. You might die 2 weeks later. But he's not walking past anything. He's right around everything. You can see the buildings are completely destroyed. All the fuel pools were full of reactor cores. They were detonated and thrown everywhere. And we know from the emails from the NRC, by the 18th, everything was gone out of that building. But there was rods thrown everywhere. And so if there is somebody that was in that picture, they were sacrificed. I don't know how they made it up the deer without dying. So I think it's photoshopped. I can't imagine anybody making it that far. And, like even TAG team, you can't make it. These rods, the X-rays and neutrons, will melt your organs when you're in that proximity to it. See, is the problem, right? Let's keep finishing it.
3 was observed to be a flame, and this was sort of at the same time that radiation levels were increasing further. There was a lot of suspicion that this fire was in the spent fuel pool.
Now that's allegedly what it looked like, but we just showed you the buildings. We showed you earlier Unit 4 completely wrecked, right?
However, since that time...
So look at the detonation. How can anything survive that, right?
TEPCO has said that there was an oil leak in a water pump. And
right, there's an oil leak in the water pump.
That was what was the cause of the fire.
Does that look like a fire or an oil leak to you? See? Okay, and might as well hit Stanford while we're here. And Stanford is 24 seconds. I'll shut up for a second.
Stanford University.
But anyway.
We're very, very lucky today to have two real experts on this topic. The first is...
Matthew Walls, by the way, is not an expert. He's just a journalist. Pretends he's an expert. He doesn't have a formal education in nuclear.
It's Matthew Wald from the New York Times.
Although it's a mess to try to cope with a meltdown, or three meltdowns in the spent fuel pool.
3 meltdown in spent fuel pool after...
Right after a tsunami.
After a tsunami, see? So here you were with all your major institutions telling you how bad it was. Now the people that are attacking me, one of them in particular, his family was heavily involved with the atomic industry. That was a guy known as Dots or something on the internet.
Just kind of odd here how my family, actually I'm not going to get into that, but we had something to do with the Atomic Energy Control Board of Canada. But regardless, that's an old story. I want to stick here with what I know here and what's happening.
Yeah. Now, that same person, his family, worked with the government that is attacking me constantly all day, every day.
Myself, my family, we've managed government buildings for over 27 years. I know what
right, they work with the government for 27 years. So these are the types of people that are attacking me, right? Heavily involved with the nuclear industry for many years. And you have to really wonder, you know, how can people look at that and say there's a spent fuel pool in that building? Look at the sides of it, look around it, look at, like you say, oh Dan, it looks like a pool on the roof there. Look at the left side of the building, for Christ's sakes. Look at the front of the building on the ground. Look how the entire building, right, the building would normally, I got no idea where that one came from. you got to realize what happened to that country, right? You couldn't get power, right? That was the building originally. And they tore it down. They got it to that stage, right? And then they got it to this stage. And then they come out and told you it looked like that. Yeah? That's what Seth Dorn done, right? He come out and told you.
Decommissioning work taking place here in Reactor 4.
Taking place here in Reactor 4. But that's Reactor 4, right? Zoe's no barking, honey. It's okay. Calm down, dude. Hey. It's okay. Calm down. You're a good girl. So building 4 below me that they claim they're inside of is actually inside of that building, which is actually inside of that building originally, which for a time looked just like that. So Seth Dorn was inside of that building. He probably entered through the left-hand side there, right? Now, the reason they're telling you all these lies is mixed oxide fuel right alongside of it. This was MOX fuel 2 million times worse than any other reactor. These are in chain reaction. We got to stop that. We're going to have to sacrifice 6, 7, 8 million people to stop these things. We're going to have to take the resources of the entire planet and go to war against this thing. This is not a game. We have an extinction event playing out in British Columbia, Canada, in the Pacific Ocean, identified now. That's me on a beach. Now that same beach, pre-Fukushima, would look like that. Would look like that up close, would look like that. I went and done the entire coastline, crowd-funded operation. You know, the arrows are just representations. And what we discovered was the whole coastline was naked. And these pictures are all these are pre-Fukushima, post-Fukushima. This is pre-Fukushima, post-Fukushima, pre-Fukushima. Same spot, post-Fukushima, pre-Fukushima. Now these pictures are emblematic of the entire coastline of British Columbia. That documentation is up at the Nuclear Proctologist, where we went throughout these coastlines. Now, anywhere you go in Canada, British Columbia, Canada, should look like that. Anywhere, no matter where you to. You can find it all up at the Nuclear Proctologist. But now, like that bird, he will starve to death on these beaches. Like Kevin was showing you in his video, right? California is the same way. Just a couple of algae left and that was it. And I see the same algae on this coastline. But look at that. Look how beautiful and vibrant, up to 600 of these algae, 79 species of starfish, and each species in many colors. Same thing with sea anemones, 76 species, many different colors per species. And it was a very vibrant, beautiful, wonderful, incredible, unimaginable, endearing. You just stop anywhere you want and eat. You find stuff to eat. Now you can't. Now you starve to death. Normally, just an incredible amount of food everywhere you look. You know, at low tide, it was inconceivable, unimaginable, unbelievable. And now, as you go up the coastline, that is gone, and that is left. How did you go from here? You can get 500 of those sea anemones. They come in different colors. That's the giant plume sea anemones. And the pictures are up at the NuclearProctologist.org. It's because these reactors and the way this thing tore up the coastline and the fact it wrecked everything that it touched. There's no way to get in and restore power. How can you get in and restore power, right? And you got to do it within 24 hours. This is 21st of March. It's 10 days later, and everything was long gone by that time. See? It was gone by the 18th, confirmed by the 18th. But what I'm telling you is many power plants where all the people died. That's why you got 30 million bags. In 1-ton trucks, you can wrap the planet 5 times in traffic, bumper to bumper. Now, if you were to just like normal distances, you can wrap the planet probably 10, 12 times in trucks. If you were like to keep 75 feet between each vehicle. Bumper to bumper, 5 rows of traffic. This is the same amount as 85 Empire State Buildings used to build itself, material. And if you were to stack each bag on top of each other, this is all from 4 buildings. If you were, they got billions of tons of wreckage covered in radiation from all the meltdowns along the same coastline as all the people died from the wood chipper that came through it. That's why there's so much waste. See? That's why we got to stop these reactors. There's so many of them. And like the governor said, you got to decommission at least 10 of them, for goodness sakes. So rain fell in North America. That's never going to stop. But we got to try. That's why do we got academics and universities and institutions if we're just going to lie, pretend that it never happened? And that all the models are only based upon 2 days releases from a single reactor, from single venting. Radiation data from Seattle, because they were breathing 10 hot particles a day. And everybody else was covered and soaking wet in it. Because TEPCO is ready to release radiation, not information. And governments delayed level 7, which is not really justice. It should be level 7 for each of the reactors. It should be, but each of the reactors are 3 times the size of anything that was in Chernobyl. Chernobyl was 1/3 the size, a 30% meltdown, and stopped after 10 days, but was equal to 400 Hiroshima bombs. I'll cover that for 1 second. Chernobyl was hell on earth. John Vidal, 2006, Guardian. Third sentence from the top. For the next day spewed the equivalent of 40 Hiroshima bombs a day. 400 over 10 days. 40 a day. 40 a day. Well, if that's 40 a day, what the hell is that? Right? You know what I mean? That didn't happen to Russia. Russia was 600 kilometers away from the coastline. This is right on the ocean. That's Unit 3. That's Unit 4. They say it's like that, but we know it's like that. They tore it all apart, so that can't even exist. Right? But we're led to believe that that power plant survived while everything else was destroyed around it. That all the power plants survived. But the reality of it is the pictures I'm showing you. The reality is the documentation I'm showing you. The reality is that was mixed oxide. That was 2 million times worse than any other reactor on the planet. We have to go deal with that. We have to stop that. There is nothing more important. There's no way forward without stopping that. We killed the Pacific Ocean like I just showed you. The fallout is modeled by many countries, but it doesn't include that. Doesn't include that. Doesn't include that. Doesn't include that. See? And media all claims that they all survived like that. But the modelings from different countries, just based up on the short releases for a short period of time. Different countries. Look at the different countries. All these different countries. These are nothing. I got just endless amount of these models of different countries. None of them are including all the meltdown, melt-throughs, meltouts, and the continuing ongoing releases. And then Woods Hole is telling you that the bottom paragraph, though serious, the total compale, but look at the top right-hand corner, Fukushima is nothing compared to Chernobyl, according to these idiots, these moronic, stupid, idiotic, mass murdering freaks of nature, these disgusting, perverted, demented, satanic, Satan-worshipping devil themselves are directly lying by saying, like the last paragraph, that just because there's releases, they pale compared to the abundance of radioactive substances that are naturally present. What the frick? Why is somebody even saying that? How come the university don't pull their degree? How come the university don't come out and redact that and say, hey, wait a second, folks, this person was a lawyer and he brings a great amount of disrespect to his profession, but we have now took away his degrees. We are now prosecuting him with tribunals. No, they gave him the chart probably. That's what your university does. It rolls out morons like that to tell you this who actually know the difference. We got to stop the reactors in Fukushima. We've got to do that. Great thing about the lie where they tell you petabecquerels. Well, for man-made, that would be an issue, yeah? But for nature, No one cares. It's just 12 million times more, 12.4 actually, million times more man-made in a gram atoms, killer atoms. It only takes one atom to give you a cancer or an autoimmune deficiency or a manifestation. I still never imported those documents I was supposed to do. I forgot about that again. I'll get it at some point. There's 1,800 autoimmune deficiencies will show up before the cancer. Once again, let me touch for anybody. I'm still on a friggin' rope. Look. Hang on. Let's do it that way again. So average tritium concentration in surface water across Canada in 1987, 1993, 1982, 1984, 9 to 11 becquerels a liter. After an accident, it was 400 becquerels and diluted down to 150 becquerels. Does that mean it's harmless? No, but they were saying, well, I was down to 150 becquerels, thank goodness. 222 terabecquerels of tritium. And so up to 1,600 becquerels a liter. But come look at the drinking water standards in Canada right now, and it's 7,000 becquerels a liter for man-made tritium. Because of Fukushima. When pre-Fukushima, studies worldwide, not just Canada, but studies worldwide, throughout the world were showing 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to becquerels throughout the world. 6, 7 becquerels, 8 becquerels maybe per cubic meter per 100 liters per the cubic meter is 1,000 liters. When you see a D with it, it's 100 liters. With a cube, with a D. So different countries around the world, 1 to 4, 1 to 9 becquerels. What was he? So that's 100 liters per 100 liters, cubic 100 liters. And here it was saying 1.1 becquerels. That's part of that same study, actually. So different countries around the world showing you basically there was jack shit. And all kinds of studies were done on tritium, pre-Chernobyl, pre-3 Mile Island, and then even after that. And then all of a sudden, they're down there today dumping a massive amount more into the ocean where they claim it's only tritium, but the tanks are full of X-rays and neutrons because they're spraying water over the reactors. Say they're spraying 1,000 tons a day, but they're collecting 300 tons a day of that stuff. But at the same time, it's built on a mountain, so water's running underneath it all the time. Everything they're flushing down gets washed immediately out into the Pacific. The current whisked it right away off the coastline. 90-odd% of it immediately is headed towards us. The ocean current travels at 5 miles per hour, 24 hours a day. And I can, that's 300. That's right here in North America in 45 days. And then every day behind it was still coming out. So the whole ocean now, from one end to the other end, was all radiation. But this is 5 years later we're talking about, not 45 days. The jet streams brought it out and brought it over to North America in 3 or 4 days. And then when it lost a lot of its payloads at the mountains, that's why there's no glacier ice in the mountains in British Columbia anymore. We're directly across from it. Now the jet stream actually split. It didn't do what it was supposed to do. I'll bring that up for you. That was documented. Let's bring up, do some dancing around here. The jet stream, La Nina.
Welcome to the Potter Blog site, January 20th, Friday evening. This evening's word is La Nina. La Nina is the event, it's the opposite of the El Nino event that occurs off the Pacific. I believe it's an upwelling of cool water. In essence, what it has done, it has split the jet stream in half. Northern half, southern half. Now, this chart here is from the NOAA, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. This is a 30-day mean. This means it's the 30-day average of the winds at the 250 millibar level. That's pressure.
But anyway, it split. The jet stream had split. And so right up the California coast, right? And then it was brought in by rain through convection and evaporation. So that's the end of the stream, I guess, today, by the looks of it. And don't forget, folks, we're going to have to cover this one every day and pound it into the ground. It's got to go. Because this is nonsense saying Fukushima was insignificant compared to Chernobyl. And at 3 Mile, it was insignificant on top of that. So 0.00004 petabecquerels is like a gram or something, see? From 3 Mile Island, which had a 50% meltdown. See how they got away with that? And now they're really shoving it down everybody's throat. Oh no, there was nothing there. Right? No, you never done a study on anything man-made accidents. Never. You never released it. That's a fact. If you did release it, you said, oh, it's like bananas, potato chips, walking in the sunshine, you fudged the numbers. That's the only reason you would ever do it. Dr. Raymond Gilmedy from Loveless Respiratory Research Institute, his study shows you, buddy, what man-made. I mean, MIT, earlier in the video telling you, just let me run back over to here for a second. Dr. Raymond Gilmedy from Loveless Respiratory Research Institute in New Mexico done 94 peer-reviewed studies. Let me bring it up another way, actually. Because curium isotopes was the major byproduct, not iodine, not cesium. They're actually just tracers. They're irrelevant. They're scary. They're deadly. They're very, very harmful. Don't get me wrong. But curium is the biggest producer. But Gilmedy was feeding this to dogs and puppies over and over and over. And so 144 dogs. Look at the third line from your top. 3 years after. But look at the fifth line. Bones tumors found in 93 dogs were the most common cause of death. And look at the bottom 2 lines. These findings in dogs suggest we're in a lot of trouble. Because everything that came out of Japan is like this kind of, like plutonium, because they were mixing oxide in it. Think about how moonshine works. No, that's not what I wanted to do. All over the place. Well, come and say good day to everybody. Hugs for everybody. Thank you to everybody. Once again, Billy Johnson. Thank you, Billy. Like your cap. Love your cap. Say hi, Mom. She's still hanging in. And Jan Smith, who never stops out there. We thank Jan, who never stops supporting us. And even though she's worn to the frazzle, she puts on her happy face and gets busy every day because that's the moral and ethical. And there is no way to turn away from that, see? And we'll bring up that other camera sitting there. Albert, Kay, Amthers, Elaine, Ping, Mickey. Hugs for everybody. Thank you, everybody. Pam, Margaret, Mickey. No Margaret there, sorry. Gabriel. I'm just trying to hit a few names before I can sign off, because that's how I row. Checks and balances. Thank you, my friend. And everybody. Mickey, Albert, Dana, in case you're reading this, BQQ today in Japan, there's Sendai, earthquake today, and Genki nuclear power plants. Thanks, Jen. Thanks for those videos. You keep sending them to me, okay? Those types of videos. I hope you understand what you're doing here. Giving me that kind of ammunition. Illusion is over! Probably not a good thing for somebody out there, I can assure you. Good thing for Jan, dog. Good thing for Dana and all the hounds. It is what it is. We got to defend ourselves sometimes. That might be civil trial, Jed. Hi, Frank. Hello, everybody. Goodbye, everybody. Hugs for everybody. We'll hit you on the rebound. Tomorrow morning, 10:30 a.m. Pacific Canada time, British Columbia time, Pacific Standard Time. We're on camera, Dana. I never stop. By the way, please donate. For goodness sakes, donate. Get me where I need to go. Get me what I need. To really put the boots to these people. Look what happened when I got the boat. We went out and we done the entire coast. We got that documentation. And that's been used to bludgeon these people. Particularly the ones that understand what the pictures mean. And understanding now that we got to work hard to stop these reactors. And I need, like, Skype machines. There's just 7,000 Canadian because the sale's over. I need proper lights. I need I need to be a real media And so this might not end for a couple of years for us doing what we're trying to do. Because we got to have someone out here, got to have someone like myself out here going bat to bat, handling the narrative and explaining to you like we done with the ocean, right? So you got to learn to despise that chart, and I will work hard to make that happen. Hugs for everybody. We'll see everybody tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. Pacific Canada time. I'm Dana Durnford. Take care, folks.